Biking Preparedness, Pastor Joe Fox again. This is kind of a follow-on video to the last one I did. I have been blessed to have lived in a lot of different places. When I was young, I moved about every 2 years. I'm talking different countries. And then I became an adult, joined the military, moved less than every 2 years for the bulk of my career. And lived here and there all over the U.S., lived overseas in many different places. And so I learned about culture, right? Learned about culture shock. I learned about fitting in and blending and those kinds of things. And it's something that most people do not understand. Most Americans do not understand. It's the easiest thing in the world to stand in some foreign airport and looking out over the swaths of people walking and pick out the Americans. It's easy. We just have a way about us. And that can be good, that can be bad. But when people of whatever race are considering moving from the city, the suburbs, to the country, to the boonies, which, I recommend people do, Pastor Dow recommends people do. Many people say, come out of her, my people, or leave the cities now, whatever. You can experience culture shock if you do that, and things can go well or not, really all depending on your actions. And so let me tell you some things people do. People move to a new place, and it's always the honeymoon, right? Everything's always great here. It's so different and exciting and new, and it doesn't matter where it is, right? It doesn't matter what culture you're moving into. People go through that, and see the dogs running. And so that's called the honeymoon phase. And then people start missing where they came from. And they start saying things like, oh, they don't have this here, or they don't have that here, or people here don't do that, or people here are like that. And this is kind of a negative period in the adjustment phase. And then for the people who adjust comes acceptance and adapting. Let me give you some examples. Southeast Asia. In most of Southeast Asia, showing emotion is considered extremely bad form. Now, do Southeast Asians get angry? Yeah, of course they do. They're people. Do they display it in public? Not really. Philippines is a little bit different. Maybe that's because they've got Spaniard blood in them, I don't know. But, Thailand, Laos, Malaysia, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, especially Singapore, people just don't display emotion like that. It's considered bad form. And so we as Americans, if we think something's stupid, we're like, man, that's stupid. Wow. You've just put a big marker on yourself. And people take notice of that, and you're not fitting in. And it's not a good thing. You see, as Americans, we tend to think, well, I can do what I want, I can think what I want, and I can be what I want because I'm free. Well, you can, but there are penalties for your actions. And if you want to be accepted, and I suggest to you that in a survival or, pre-survival situation where you're moving to an area, you want to be accepted by the people, you're going to have to modify your behavior. You might have to modify your dress. In America, most Americans, when it gets hot, put on shorts, tank tops, whatever. In a lot of cultures, that's a no-no, right? A lot of Hebrew Israelite culture, that's a no-no, right? Now, can you do it? Yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's America. Are people going to like you? Are people going to assist you? Are people going to think you're weird when it comes time to do cooperation if you act your own way? Yeah. And so you got to blend. One way to blend is look at people your age and your sex in the area and try to model yourself on them. Try to walk through a crowd with no one paying any attention to you. It's getting harder for me to do that as my beard gets bigger. Hey, it's a decision I've taken. But, what are you wearing? What's everybody else wearing? Are you standing out? Why? You know, I said earlier in my last video, don't try to make any statements. So why are you wearing what you're wearing? I'll give you an example. I came from a culture not too long ago where everybody, men, wore, you know, cargo pants, right, of one form or another, and typically polo shirts, or if they were casual, some cool t-shirt, right? Out here, people don't wear that. You know, they just don't wear that. And so when I first came out here, that's what I wore, because that's what I was comfortable in, you know, because I'd been wearing that for about, I don't know, 10 years or so. And I came out here and that's what I wore, and you get looks and you don't quite fit in. And so now when I'm walking around out in public, I look like pretty much everybody else, which around here is a little bit, you know, a little bit, well, let's just say they're not wearing Louis Vuitton, right? They're not wearing press-pleated khakis. But it is what it is. And so you blend in how you look, you blend in how you eat, you know, start eating what the people eat, talk like the people talk. You know, down here, for a while it was hard for me to understand some people. They got a real big twang. And I had to listen hard. But people are generally more quiet here than in urban centers. They're not loud and boisterous. Like I said, they kind of keep to themselves, and that kind of carries over when they have conversations. I don't think I've ever heard a vehicle at the few stoplights I've been to with the speakers cranked. You know, wah, wah, wah. It's kind of like Germany. You know, the West German people, and now my information's dated. I haven't been there since the 90s. But when I was there, they were very neat and orderly people. You know, I used to run at dawn in the towns that I would be operating out of. And while I'd be running down the sidewalk, these old German ladies would come out of their houses, their little townhouses, in their housecoats, and they would pick up the twigs that had fallen from the tree into their yard. And then they would sweep up the sidewalk, and then they would carry it down to the end of the street where they had these like recycle dumpsters, and they would put their little twigs in there, and everything was neat and tidy and orderly. And then the wall came down, and the wall had been down when I was there, and Eastern Europeans started flooding in to West Germany, and their culture was extremely different. I mean, they would tag walls, you know, spray paint, graffiti walls, and you cannot imagine the cultural horror that caused West Germans. When someone would paint on a building like that, are you kidding me? And so it was creating cultural problems in Germany because of that. And that's just one example. There were many, many more. And so, yeah, when you move to a new place, try to blend. Look at people your age, your sex. Try to dress like them, try to talk like them, try to carry yourself like them, and try to blend in and just accept how things are. That's another thing when people move to new cultures, they try to change the culture. You're not going to change the culture. You know, that culture has been there much longer than you, and you're not going to show them new ways of doing things. People aren't real impressed with how you used to do things in LA or, you know, St. Louis or whatever. They don't care, all right? If you do have a better way of doing something, the best thing to do is just do it. And people will come around and notice it, and then you can talk to them about it when they ask you. But again, don't try to make any statements. You're not going to impress anybody. And just try real hard to blend. When I go out, I don't wear this hat. I wear a beat-up baseball feedlot hat, you know, crank it down. I wear jeans and work boots and some kind of work shirt. You know, I don't wear some commando t-shirt or something. People here wouldn't get it. It would make me stick out. You need to start thinking about things like that. All right. See you out there.